Hi everyone. Today we're going to be learning about internet safety and security and how to protect our families in a connected world. I want to talk to you about this because our children are facing a terrible time right now, and I think we can do some wonderful work in our homes and with our peers to be able to help them grow and understand how they can be better citizens in this growing age of technology and wonder. Okay, so this internet that I speak of is vast. It's full of wonderful things that I think we can be so grateful for, and has been another revolution for us in terms of how we see the world and how we interact with the world. So I want to take some time and just talk about those things and how our children can maybe help out and understand some of those things. So many things are on the internet, like I said, are wonderful, but there's many things we should never see, hear, or forward to anyone. There's a really funny part in Toy Story where Woody and Buzz Lightyear are talking back and forth, and all of a sudden this prompt comes up, and it talks about prompt from this dinosaur that says, what are you doing right now? And the lady, Triceratops, basically goes, hey, just don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. It's just a dinosaur, and we don't know anything about it or anything. And I think that's how kind of we feel sometimes when we interact with people online. We just kind of don't know them. We just kind of go out there and, think we can trust everything, but, sometimes we really can't. So yeah, we have to take that previous part where I talked about who are we talking to, like, yeah, what are your kids doing on the internet? I think we need to kind of have a filter and some other things in place to understand about what we're doing, what everyone's doing on the internet. Some of the ways to protect our kids on what they see online is to talk to them about what they will encounter online and help them understand the pros and cons of all that information that they're going to see online. Here we have a great picture of how to keep our kids safe. What do we do? But really, I think it's just some very simple things that I think we can do for anyone on any type of networking, whether it's at home or on their mobile devices. First one is the big one, pornography. Let's talk to them about what that word means and that they can encounter it anywhere at any time. Tell them what it means and what the harm it can do. Second is drugs and alcohol. What can happen to them if they partake of those substances, and how to just say no to them. The third one is hate in all its forms. Whether it's on a blog, news site, social media, help them understand that if they watch or you watch something, to talk about it and to have them understand why this is not okay, and help them to learn about being nice and being kind. Fourth is discrimination. There's a discrimination out there on all types of things, places, and people. And let's help them understand what those things are and how we can help eliminate those phrases and words from them. The last three things are really grouped together, but it has a place here because it's helping our kids keep safe online. Recently, there was a security breach at the dentist office that I go to. Well, pretty much all dentist offices. And their identities were stolen. And so I had to get online. I had to start the company that offered the remediation for the dentist offices for the security breach, offered some free services to us to help protect them and their identities. And so I was able to get that going for them and to protect them, because, you know, I never know in 10 years when they try to go get a loan for a car, they can't, because their identity's been stolen. It's been used by someone else for 10 years, and it's been blown out of proportion of what's happened and what's going on. So we just got to protect those things, and how and what we can do for those things. So their names, pictures of them, the email addresses that that they'll have when they get created are just as important to protect as all these other things that we've talked about. All right, kids, this is one of my favorite pictures. I love this picture. We're going to talk about how we can control our kids' phones. But kids, don't think that that's going over the top there. We're just talking about how we can help you enjoy this wonderful thing and technology that we have. So let's go through a couple things and we'll see what we can do. All right, so we have two different systems here. Both ecosystems have built-in parental controls, iOS and Android. What we can do with them is help manage and control what and how our kids view things on these mobile devices. Android is called Family Link. You can control what apps they use, when they can use them and what time. The phone will only be a phone and not a smartphone. You can manage the content, the restrictions, and different apps that they can access or use at certain times. It's great to have a certain time length for like games, for instance. So you can say, you know, only 1 hour a day every day, or you can say no time unless I specifically give you time. So they can request it once they've done something, and then, you know, you can grant that to them. You can control where they sign in with that device and that email address, you can say. You can also see location. Privacy settings can be updated and changed. So for example, you can on iOS and Android, you can go to the Find Me app, and then you can see exactly where they are if you have that turned on, and then you can then go ahead and just keep an eye on them. For me, it's kind of a comfort to be like, oh, I don't know where my kid is, and there's that panic in that moment of I don't know what to do, and for a lot of people, that's a lot of anxiety that, and this is how I see it. If you can sleep at night knowing where your kid is, then it's definitely something that you want to do and can and have enabled. And so, yeah, at a moment's notice, I can go on my phone, I can do the Find My app, and I can see, hey, my kid is still at his friend's house where he said he was. Great. I don't have to worry about him. He said he was going to be home at 11, and so I know that that's okay. It's 10:30. I don't have to worry about it. Or if it's like 10:59, and I'm like, he's going to be late. This is terrible. I'm going to have to call him. I have to go over there. No, I can just look at my app and say, oh, he's like, just around the corner, and I don't have to worry about it. So it's really nice that, like I said, if you can sleep at night knowing that that's on and knowing that you can use it, it's much better than staying up all night, worrying about your kid, having to, have that argument and, and get into that confrontation. I think it's a much better choice to have that sense of peace in your head to feel good and to know that. And I think that's a great thing that they built into these devices. So yeah, you can know when it's going to be a phone, not a smartphone. Manage content restrictions, so you can say like any apps 9 years that are rated for 9 years and younger, they can have at it. Anything over that restriction, they cannot access and they cannot even see. I think for the most part, I think they can see it, but they can't install it. I'm not sure about Android. I'm pretty sure about iOS that they don't see them, but I could be wrong. It's been a while since I usually get them and it just pops up. Usually it's one of my kids on my phone being like, hey, I want this, and I'm like, well, this is for, you're only 10 and this is for 17 years and older, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that, it looks fun, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but there's a reason for that. Then I go into talk about that. So there's downtime and app limits. So basically, in iOS there's a category for movies, and so any like Netflix or Amazon streaming, Disney Plus, any of those, you can say you can have an hour a day, and after that you're done. Or you can say no time unless I give you time. And so just like I said before, you have that control to either do singular apps or a category of apps. And so yeah, definitely worthwhile. Suddenly you're making that smartphone just a phone so they can call you when they need to be picked up, or you're giving them that opportunity to have that smartphone to then enjoy some downtime when they need it. What's really nice is you can disable the phone with a flick of a button. You can turn off all the apps, and all of a sudden there's nothing going on, and they do get upset, but there's that control if it comes to that. So yeah, iOS is called Screen Time. Like I said, Android is called Family. It was called Family Link, not Family Time. And so Screen Time. What's really nice about iOS is there's downtime for apps. There's downtime for contacts. You can only set certain contacts to contact you after downtime. So basically, you have the family list or the emergency list. They can only contact and talk to. So like, friends are like, nope, it's 10:30. It should be bedtime. It shouldn't be talk time. And there's some things that I've had several instances where my kids have come up to me and said, hey, Dad, I'm on a conversation. They are struggling right now with something. They just need someone to talk to. Can I have time with this person? And I say, well, what are you talking about? They'll give and go and see, like, they're having a tough time at school with a bully or something, and I'm like, okay, yes, that's fine. You can talk to them. You can help them. And they're really good about that. So it's not been terrible. They don't come in and say, hey, Dad, I can't talk to my girlfriend. Or to my boyfriend. Well, I'm sorry, but you know what? There's a downtime for that. So yeah, like I said, you can app limit for groups and categories. There's communication limits for texting and calling. What's really nice in iOS is you can restrict adult sites in terms of what they view on the internet. And so you can even turn off the web browser if you want, so then they can't even get out to the web. All it is just using for apps that they have downloaded or that you approve of. So, there's great things for this type of device to be a phone, to be a semi-smartphone or a smartphone. What's really nice about iOS devices is you can share that across all of the Apple ecosystem. So if they have their own MacBook or their own iPad, you set that up with that account, and all of those are synced across, so then they can't do anything else on these devices, and it's really nice. Microsoft has gotten into this where they have their own kit accounts, and so they have restrictions that you can place on them, app restrictions, basically the same stuff I've gone through. Microsoft has that same thing, and Microsoft and Android kind of have a working thing together on some of their things, but for the most part, all these ecosystems are all separate. And so if you have Windows PCs, you can set up their accounts there. For that, if it's an Android, it's usually Gmail, and for iOS, it's usually iCloud. Especially if you're making a kit account that's under 12 or 18. I think it's 18, they have to have an iCloud. It's an iCloud only account for the children because you are managing that. And so, I mean, I guess they can go with their own account, but usually all the ones I've done are all iCloud for my kids on their iOS devices. And so it works out. It's not bad. There's nothing, it grows with them, and if they want to change it, they can. But for the most part, it's not too bad. Okay, so both ecosystems have built-in parental controls, like I said. But there is more to this. Like I said, there's communication between you and your children, between the children and you, and there's a reaction. So in these two pictures here, you can see that there's communication. They're like, hey, let's talk about this. Whereas in the reaction is like, you're looking at your phone, you're not doing anything, you're kind of, just all by yourself. Even though this family's on the same couch, they're not communicating. So we really need to, I feel like we really need to communicate with that. And I try to do that with my kids, help them understand that, there's consequences to these devices. They're powerful devices, much more powerful than when I was growing up with just a phone, at the house, and you had to share it. Now it's much different, and there's a lot of pros and cons to that. Okay, so just like a note passing in school and the party lines of the old telephone, phones have become where they congregate. Phones have really become where our kids congregate and communicate. Trusting them to use it in a way that makes them feel good about themselves and others, and to share those good things with others is key, I think, to their success. If they can, communicate with you and say, hey, I just had a great math test today. I did a great job. I got an A. That's great. But having them come to others and say, like, my parents are the worst. They don't let me do this. They don't let me do that. There's always that balance. But at the same time, you have to know what's best for your child. And so, like I said, when and where to put these things down. Here's a place. I have a place set up where there's a charging station, and so that's where they can put them. What time limits do you have on the kids? Like I previously talked about. Do they go in their rooms? Do they stay out of their rooms? Those are these things that we just have to discuss with your children. Let them know that you care about them by talking to them about these things, because it's important. Time limits. We've talked a lot about time limits. Having the space to use them, and places and spaces where they don't use them. That might be helpful to kind of to separate those things. So then they have kind of, I know I can go in here and I can play with Legos, or I can go in here and I can watch a movie on my mobile device, or I can go in here and I can watch a movie with my family. And then boundaries. What boundaries are we giving them? What boundaries are we giving ourselves? How are we treating that? And so things to just bring up with them, talk to them, get their input. Their input is just as valuable as us talking to them with how we feel. Okay, so protecting our children from online predators. This is always horrible stories when we hear this, but I think there's some great things that we can take out of what we've learned. So when they play games, one thing, who are they talking to? Have a discussion about what to watch for when they're playing games and they're chatting online. What are they sharing in text with their friends? What phone numbers do they have in their text messages or phone calls? Some studies that have been done, they talk about this. When kids talk about not eating, going hungry, or not having enough money at home, or a bad environment at home, that is what online predators are looking for, so they can exploit that, and then they can create a rift between the family at home and them. They become more trusting, and they feel like, oh, this person online will listen to me when no one else will. And that's what we want to get rid of. We want to have that home a safe place. So we're going to get pretty hard on the kids here. Who pays for these accounts? Who pays for the mobile devices? Who pays for the phone bill? You know, that's how we can control what it is. You know, let's not give them a fire hose to drink from. It'll be smoother. I mean, not smoother. It'll smother them if we give them too much. So sometimes we have to give them a little bit at a time, right? What apps do they have on their phones? Again, you know, if we're just putting them in the Wild West, there's going to be consequences to that action. Do you know what they're posting on accounts that they are attached to? You know, this phone for me is a privilege, not a right for me to you know, it's a privilege for them to have. It's not a right. You don't, that, you know, not until you're older and have your own freedom away from me when you're an adult that you can do what you want. So yes, it's very hard to kind of go over this, you know, and I think of the picture on the screen here. It says, let's keep this our secret. That's one thing that online predators or anyone trying to harm a child will do. They will say, this is between you and me. Let's keep it a secret. No one else can know. That's when you know that's a red flag that anyone should know about, especially if a kid comes to you and says, hey, they said to keep this a secret, but I feel this is an uh-oh moment, or this is hurting me. And so that's a no-go sign there. Don't ever say anything like that, you know, between anyone about keeping a secret. That's just between you and me. Don't ever do that. Okay, social media and kids. This is always a big one. There's a lot of studies that are starting to come out about this. Feeling like the world is better than them, wanting to look a certain way is always a challenge, but seeing through the lens of a filter on social media platforms takes it too far and can hurt and stunt the growth of any individual to become angry, anxious, and jaded with what they see and hear around them. Take care to reinforce these things at home so they are grounded in what they see and they have a safe place, again, that safe place to speak when they see things. Some studies that have been done, the Cleveland Clinics did a great study, talked about how it creates more anxiety, depression, mood swings, things like that. The NPR, she talked a couple things about, like, you know, this is, we need to really watch ourselves and what our kids are doing. There's a National Library and Medicine report, which is it's part of the National Institute of Health, that gives some things about also about depression, anxiety, you know, feeling disconnected from our world, our skewed view if we just see those one opinions all the time. So in conclusion, I just wanted to say thank you for listening. Thank you for taking this time, kids. Hey, kids, go up to your parents now and say, Dad, what are you doing on your phone? What are you talking about? You know, let them see a few of those conversations that you have, because it will help them understand that, you know, how to best have conversations with people online, through text. Because for me, texts are always kind of like a, you know, you can say like anything, but it always is sometimes taken the wrong way, whether it's in anger or not. You know, you never know. And so just be aware of those things. Hopefully this really helps you. I'll have the links in the description for you. If you have any questions, just reach out. I'd be more than happy to help anyone to understand anything that's here. So take care and have a good day.